Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 6 of my Android Development for Beginners tutorial. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and a lot of fun. I'm going to create an application that is going to be geared towards making you guys want to add to it. And we're going to cover the sound recorder, the player, we're going to do more with lists, and we're going to talk about incremental programming, which is just incrementally adding different features to our program, making sure they work, and then adding additional features thereafter. This helps cut down on errors and also helps us understand what's going on. And in essence, what we're going to be creating is a beatbox, but it could be converted into a note taker or a whole bunch of other different things. So let's take a look at exactly what we're going to be making. Okay, so in this tutorial what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an application that is very simplistic, but is going to be able to be ramped up to do all sorts of really cool things. Now, for example, all I did here, each one of these little buttons has my daughter saying just random, weird, sort of funny, cute things. However, this could very easily be turned into a note-taking thing, a beatbox type of thing, anything like that. If I hit the reset button here, I'll be able to record again. So let's say I wanted to do a beatbox type of thing. I could go stop the recording, and you can see that it's playing it back. So I hope this is a really fun tutorial, and the way that it's structured to make you want to add more to it and explore all this stuff. So let's get into it. Okay, so there is the application that we will be making, and I'm going to call this Beatbox, as you can see right here. And then real quickly now, I'm just going to assemble this, and like I said, I'm going to incrementally build this application. So the very first thing that I'm going to want to do is to verify that I can record, I can stop recording, and I can play, and I can get the location for the sound on my device. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go to Layout. I'm going to get myself a horizontal arrangement and drop it in here. And then I'm going to go and get myself some buttons. So User Interface, there's a button. Drop it in there, go get another button, drop it in there, there it is, and get me another button, and drop it in here, and then come over and get myself a label, and that is just going to put on the screen temporarily the location for my sounds that I record. Now I'm going to come in here and select these individually and give them a name, so I'm going to call this record, and then I'm going to click on rename after that, and this is just going to be the record button, and there we go, and you can see it says record. Then I'm going to get this one, and it is going to be called the stop button, and rename that. Come over here, and I'm going to call this stop record button, and then get this one right here, and this is going to be play, and rename, and call this the play button, just to keep it very simple. And there we go, and then I can get my label, this guy right here, and let's rename this to sound location label. And there that is, that's gone. So there's our whole user interface. And if I want to have this fill my screen, I can come over here to horizontal arrangement, select that, come down here to width, go fill parent, say OK. And then I can grab each one of these and say fill parent, and you're going to see what happens. So, OK, these are all the buttons, fill parent. And you might be asking yourself, well, how can all three fill the parent? Well, you're going to see that they equally divide up all the space together, and they work quite nicely. Then I'm also going to need a sound recorder, so come over here to Media, and sound recorder is this guy, so drag that over here and drop it in. Did I drop it? Yeah, there it is. I'm also going to need a player, drag that over, drop that in. And I'm also going to use a notifier, and the notifier is in the user interface, and that's just going to be a little dialog box, and drop that in. Alright, now I'm prepared. So let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what we are going to try to create in the block section. Okay, so like I said before, what we're going to be doing here is incrementally building this application. So the very first thing we're going to do here is start off simple and just implement the ability to record, to stop recording, to display the location for our sound, and then to play it back. So we're going to incrementally build this thing and verify that everything works along the way. Alright, so now that you know what we're going to create in the block section, let's go in and let's start creating all the blocks that we need here. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to store the recording because I'm going to do a couple things with it. I'm going to display it in the label that you just previously saw, and also I'm going to reference it whenever I say I want to play a certain recording. So that means that I'm going to have to create a new variable. So I'm going to have to go initialize global, drag and drop that right there, and I'm going to call this recording 1. And I'm going to come in here and give it a value of nothing, but just by putting double quotes and hitting enter, and there we go, have that all set up. Then what I'm going to need to do is have the record button work. So I'm going to have to say when the record button is clicked, there it is, I want it to start recording. So how do I start it recording? Well, I'm going to have to go to the sound recorder, which is right here, and I'm just simply going to call for the sound recording to start. But you may ask yourself, well, how are we going to stop this? Well, of course, we're going to click on the stop record button, and there it is. Drag and drop that right there. And then what are we going to do with it specifically? We are going to come down here to sound recorder, click on that, and all these blocks and everything here, in the description I have a link to all of them. It might help to have them in front of you. Drag that, we're going to stop it, but then we're also, after we stop it, we are going to set the sound location label with the global recording. This guy right here, all this is it is the location for the recording. But to get that, what I'm going to have to do is go into the sound recorder again, this guy right here, and you can see here, after sound recorded, it's going to store the location for our sound. So we're going to want to get this guy, drop him right there, drag this down here to give ourselves a little bit more room, and then inside of this guy, we're going to set the value for this one. So we're going to go set, drag that, drop it right there, and then we're going to say get the new sound that you have, that you just recorded, and let's set it up with this guy. Now I can come down here and set my label just by going to sound location label right there and set sound location label text. Drag that, whoops, drop it right here. And then, since I have this as a global, that means everybody can see it. So to get it, I just get this guy right here and drop it on there. And that's what it looks like. The only thing to do now is to make the play button work. So I'm going to go into the play button, and I'm going to say when it's clicked, drop this right here. And for your homework, you might want to look into how to take a long press and then have that tell the player to continue looping. So there's homework if you want it, because people ask me for homework all the time. Now I can go in here, I have to tell the player that I want it to play, but first I have to assign exactly what I want to play, and you do that by setting the source. Drop that right on there, and the source is going to be this guy right here, so let's duplicate that, drag it, drop it right there, and then I have to call and tell the player to start. And there it is, call player 1 to start. And there we go. Everything is all set up and everything will work exactly as I demonstrated on my device itself. Now let's go and take a look at exactly what we're going to be adding next, which are going to be a list, and we're going to be adding lists just to verify or be able to store multiple sounds, and also we're going to be able to add items to our list, and we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other things with lists. So let's take a look at what we're going to be moving towards next. Okay, so we're going to incrementally build now towards this. Now, of course, we're still going to be able to record and talk and talk and talk, and we're still going to display the information in regards to where the sound file is being stored, and talk and talk and talk, and we'll also be able to play it, of course. However, in the background, we're going to be now storing this information in a list, and that's going to be important because our final application is going to store a whole bunch of sounds in a list. Alright, so as you saw, we are basically going to be working with lists, and we're going to be using those lists in multiple different places. Anytime I say I want to use this in multiple different places, that normally means I need to create a global variable for it. So I'm going to click on variables, and we're going to create a list here. So initialize global, drag, let's drop it right here. And what are we going to be creating? A list. Well, first let's give it a name, because you may know I have a tendency when I'm doing these tutorials to forget to do that. Now it's called sound list. And then to create a list, let's click on the lists over here. You can see create an empty list. Well, I don't have any sounds whenever the app first starts up, so that's what I want to do. You can also do make a list if you want to put other sounds inside of there. There's other homework. If you'd like more homework, go and figure out how to store drum beats and other different things and play those as well as recorded sounds. So more homework. Okay, so now we got to think about, well, what do we need to change here? Well, the record button's still going to act like a record button, so whenever it's clicked on, it is going to record a sound. After the sound is recorded, however, is going to change. And how it is going to change is whenever a new sound is added, we want to add it to our sound list. Well, let's go into the list section and see what is inside of here. Well, you can see right here, add items to list and item. Well, the item we want to add in this situation would be a sound. So let's grab this and drop it right there and go and give ourselves a little bit more space so we can work here. Then inside of here, we have to tell it what list we're going to be adding it to. Well, we are going to be adding it to our sound list, this guy. So let's go get sound list, this guy. There it is, dropped it right there. And what are we going to be adding? We're going to be adding our new sound. So get sound and put it right there. Now we are adding the sounds to a list that we're then going to be able to work with later on. And if we come down inside of here, whenever we click on the stop record button, there's no reason to change anything, so we're going to let everything be exactly the same. And whenever we go to click the play button, well, guess what? Something's going to change here because we're now going to be working with sounds that are stored inside of a list. And what happens if we try to play a sound that doesn't exist? The program's going to crash. So, what are we going to do here? Well, we're no longer going to be using this guy. Actually, let's just get rid of all this together and start over. So we're going to be playing sounds from a list because we're incrementally adding things. What we did first was we verified that the record stop, the play, and the location all worked. After we verified that, now we want to add list functionality to be able to store multiple sounds. Now we could just jump in here and start creating or thinking everything's going to work, but sometimes that's bad. So what we're doing here is we're just verifying that the list application works. Are we going to be able to store multiple sounds in a list? That's all we're doing here. And so we're going to add that functionality. Now if we get back to the play button, we may have remembered whenever we go to play, we want to verify that a sound actually exists to play in the list before we try to play it. Well, anytime we get into a situation where we have a condition, that means we are going to have to go into control and use an if, then, else block, or whatever you want to call these things. So let's drop that inside of there. And then let's think about our conditions. Well, what do we want to verify? We want to verify that the list is not empty before we try to play something. All right. And otherwise, we're probably going to put a notification out there. Hey, your list is empty. I can't play anything. So we're going to say if list is empty. Let's go and look here and see if there's a way to find out if our list is empty. Is list empty? Yep, we can do that. So let's go and drag that down here. And we're going to want to see if this returns a value of true or false. So that means logic. And we're going to say true here. And then we're going to have to compare the two of them together. So that means we're going to have to go into, logic. And we're going to get this guy right here. Then we're going to say if is list empty. Drag, drop that right there. And then we have to get our list. That's what's going to go right here. Just come up here, go like this, get. There's our sound list, drop it right there. Not equal to true. If it is not equal to true, that means that there's an item in our list. In that situation, we're going to be able to play. But specifically, we want to play the first index in our list. We're not thinking about there being multiple items yet. Incremental programming. We're just making sure the first one works, and then we're going to assume everything works after that. So if we want to play something, we have to first say where is the location of what you want to play. So get the player and get the source and drop it right there. Then we need to get the first item in the list. So that means we need to go into the list tools here. We're going to say that we want to select an item from our list. So select list item, drag that over here. We're going to have to define what list we want. So just grab this and duplicate it, drag that right there. And specifically we want index 1. The very first location in our list. So we're going to go into math and grab our number and drag it down here and drag it over here. And then inside of here, we're going to type 1. And then after we set what we want to play, we can go into the player again and we can say that we want it to play. Right there, call player start. Now, if we're good programmers, we want to handle if the list is empty. So if it isn't empty, that means there's a sound in there to play, then we want to play it. If it is empty, well, we want to pop up a little notification, so we're going to say else, right, like that, and we're going to pop up a notifier that says, hey, there's no sounds for you to play. So get the notifier right there, and I'm just going to do a simple show alert notice and drag and drop it right there, and there you go. And then I'm going to come in here and put a little note. Let's say no sounds in list. Enter. There that is, and there that is. And there you go. And after we run this program, and you should run this incrementally as well on your own devices to verify that everything works. After we run this, then, and we know that the list items work, we can add items, we can select items, we can do all kinds of things with them. Then what we want to be able to do is go in there and add numerous play buttons. So that means we're going to have to go back to the designer, and what we're going to be creating here now is the application that you saw at the very, very beginning of the video. So feel free to review that, but otherwise let's just go and start doing it. Okay, so now we no longer need this play button. Technically we're going to use it, but we're going to change the way that it looks. We definitely do not need this label because all of the items there are going to be stored inside of our list. So we can just come over here and say delete, and it's gone. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves another layout and a horizontal arrangement. And I will no doubt be adding a gazillion sounds to my own personal app. I just wanted to keep it simple for this one. I'm going to get the play, drag it in there, and then I'm going to change this up so that it's a different color. So let's just say that this is sound 1, and then let's have our background color, I don't know, let's set it for black, and then let's set our text color down here to white. Now you can see it's a little black dot with a 1 inside of it. Alright, so let's add a couple more sounds to this guy. So click on that, drag this over here, drop it inside of there, and let's go and do a couple more, and let's go and do one more. Okay, so we can come in here. Well, first let's go and look at this. This says play button, right? Well, let's click on this and let's rename this to play button 2. Play button 2. There we go. And let's rename this to play button 3. And there that is. And let's rename this one to play button 4. So there that goes. Alright. And then we can select each one of these individually. Click on this one. Come up here, change its color to blue. Come down here, change this text inside of it to 2. Change the text color on this to white. And you can see that now that's what that looks like. Come over here, let's go and change this to 3. Come up here to background color, change it to cyan, and then come down here and change the text color to white. Even though white might not necessarily show up great in cyan. Not really, but whatever. And then background, and let's go dark gray. Change this to 4, and then change my text color to white again. And there you can see, it's back to exactly the way that it was. The only thing we're going to have to do here, and this is really, really silly, because I was actually going to use a procedure and extremely streamline everything here. But I dug through documentation like a madman, and the one thing that I would need to do to be able to do that is to be able to put a bunch of players inside of a list. Because you see, I wanted to have this set up so that it was like a beatbox. So if you had a drum, you could click on that and then you could hit like a hi-hat and it wouldn't stop the drum when you hit the hi-hat. But there's no way to create a list of players, so I wish they would fix that. But either way, we're going to have to actually have a player for every sound. So in this situation, we're going to, we technically don't. If you don't mind the fact that you can't play more than one sound at a time, you don't need multiple players. But if you want to play multiple sounds at a time, you need multiple players. So let's just go and drag these over here. So since we have 4 buttons, we're going to need 4 of these. But we still only need 1 recorder, so that's not something we have to do. And now we can go into the block section and finish everything up. Alright, so here we are inside of the block section. So let's think here. We have our recording right here. We have our sound list right here. What are we going to have to add to this? Well, let's look at the record button. Does anything need to change there? No, not really. Whenever the record button is clicked on, it is going to record. This guy right here, where we're going to handle the new recording after the sound has been recorded, are we going to have to change anything here? Well, set the recording to the sound, add the items to the list. Well, what this guy's going to do is each time there's a new sound, it's going to create a new box in our list and it's going to stick it in there. So we don't have to do anything with that either. Come down here. Whenever the stop record button is clicked on, we're going to stop recording. Do we need to do anything else? Nope, not really. Then we get into this guy. In essence, what we're going to have to do is create a way of handling this for each one of the play buttons. Yes, like I said before, I wish I could have streamlined this and put this inside of a procedure, but I have no way of creating a bunch of players. So once again, that's the reason why I didn't do it that way. So does anything need to change here? We need to verify that the list isn't empty, so that's good. We also need to verify that we do have a sound that we're going to play in index 1. We're going to start it, and if it doesn't work, we're going to say no sounds in list. So that means basically that we are going to have to come in here and duplicate this. So just grab this whole entire thing and let's duplicate it. We're going to have one of these for every single one of our buttons. We're going to go in here to play button, change it to play button 2. Now we got to think about it. This guy right here doesn't work for us anymore because we need at least 2 sounds for play button 2 to work. So that means this one has to go away. So let's go. Let's just throw it away. And let's go and get this guy and drag it out of here. Throw that away. What am I going to verify this time? Actually, let's get the whole thing. Throw it away. Okay, so there it goes, and it's in the garbage can. What we're trying to verify here, or what we need to verify, is there is at least 2 sounds. So this plays the second sound. Well, we need to verify that there is a second sound, or there's more than 2 sounds. So that means we need to check for greater than or equal to 2. So we're going to get this guy, and we're going to duplicate this and drag it right here. Then we're going to have to come into math. This guy right here, grab this guy right there and drag him over here and drop him in there. Check for if it's greater than or equal to 2. Come in here to math again, grab this guy, number, drop it in there, and change that to 2. And then take this, and I'm going to have to also go in and check the length of our list. So go into lists, and we're going to go to length of list, this guy right here, drop it right there, and the list itself is this guy right there. So we're going to go in, and before we try to play it, we're going to make sure that we have at least 2 sounds so that we know we have a sound to play. This is, of course, going to have to be player 2. This right here is going to be changed to 2. We're going to play the second sound, player 2 start. There that is. And then we could say sound 2 not in list as our notification. So there is everything we did to create this whole entire application incrementally. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any questions or comments below. Otherwise, till next time.